Hi, everyone. It's Friday, May 16th. You're watching CBC News BC. I'm Benit Brach here in the Vancouver newsroom, and here's what we're following this afternoon. Well, nearly 3 weeks after the tragedy at the Lapu Lapu Street Festival in Vancouver, the City of Vancouver and the Police Department have provided an update on the preliminary report looking into public safety of outdoor events. Mayor Ken Sim discussed some new priorities to better protect outdoor events. Take a listen.
To enhance on-the-ground safety, the Vancouver Police Department has invested in new mobile vehicle barriers, which are highly effective tools used in other cities that have just, these devices have just arrived, and they can be deployed quickly to prevent vehicle-related incidents, whether accidental or intentional, at public gatherings.
He says Vancouver police have invested in 16 mobile vehicle barriers that can be used at events. He also says a database for the city and first responders will be updated, and the city will look for more recommendations to finalize that report. Ken Sim noted that for the Lapu Lapu Festival, proper safety processes were followed, but that doesn't mean that that's enough, and he said that change is needed. And as the city aims to improve public safety, festival organizers are keeping a close eye on the next steps. Today, the Shipyard's night market is kicking off, and it's expected to draw crowds to the live music, market, vendors, and food trucks. Mike Bleakley is the entertainment director of the market.
We already have to submit a comprehensive security plan to use the shipyard space. In light of the recent tragedy, we have been working with the city to bolster what's in place by adding cement barriers, including some steel barriers that are mobile, and they'll be inserted in place once we're all set up.
The Shipyard's night market opens this evening, May 16th, ahead of the long weekend. And a special prosecutor has been appointed to oversee the investigation of a Maple Ridge city councillor. Ahmed Youssef has taken a leave of absence after being charged with 6 offenses, including assault and firearms charges. The province says a special prosecutor has been appointed to avoid the potential for real or perceived improper influence. The special prosecutor is Claire Hatcher, a senior Vancouver lawyer in private practice. While the Victoria Day long weekend means local travel for many British Columbians, safety organizations in the Lower Mainland are warning travelers to be cautious while driving. According to ICBC, there are nearly 1,400 crashes in the Lower Mainland each year over this 3-day long weekend, with distraction and speeding as those key reasons behind accidents. ICBC says preparing your vehicle well and making sure you're focused can help avoid those crashes. Other organizations say it's important for drivers to look out for construction workers and anyone who may have pulled over as they are vulnerable to that traffic. The ER at Lillooet Hospital and Health Centre is closed until 8 a.m. Saturday. Patients needing urgent care are advised to call 911 or visit Royal Inland Hospital in Kamloops. This marks the 9th time this month and 27th time this year. Staff shortages have forced that ER to temporarily shut down, and the emergency room at the hospital in Karameas is also down from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. today. That's it for now. You're watching CBC News BC. BC Today is coming up next.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us and welcome to the May long weekend. Yeah, this year Victoria Day comes as more Canadians decide to stay close to home and not cross the border. Are you focusing on staying local yourself? How are you spending the long weekend? We'll hear about a couple of things. The return of the Cloverdale Rodeo, and we'll talk to the mayor of Whistler about how busy it's going to be up on Whistler. Plus, Brian Minter on the rainy long weekend and how it will affect the timing of your garden. And of course, you can call in with your questions. I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. All right, you wouldn't think it by looking out your window right now, but the Victoria Day long weekend does signal BC's unofficial start to the summer. And part of that kickoff is the annual Cloverdale Rodeo and County Fair. Now, the fair traces its roots back to more than 130 years, with the rodeo starting 80 years ago. That's a baby. More than 70,000 people are expected to pass through the gates between today and Monday. And we're asking you, how are you spending the long weekend? Are you planning to stay local? And if you are hitting up the Cloverdale Country Fair and Rodeo this weekend, let us know too. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. And you can also hit pound 690 on your cell phone. If you'd like, you can email us, bctoday@cbc.ca. Rick Hugh is the vice president of the Cloverdale Rodeo and Exhibition Association that organizes the event and joins me now. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Michelle.
How busy are things today?
Well, amazingly enough, all of the moving parts seem to be coming together. So we're in good shape. We've spoken to Mother Nature, and she is going to cooperate as best she can. So, yes, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. We've got some fun and exciting things going on the Cloverdale Fairgrounds this weekend.
My gosh. So many people go. This is a really big deal. I'm actually embarrassed to say I've never been, but mostly because I know it gets super busy and just be aware of the traffic and all of that. Can you tell me a bit more about what exactly happens at this annual tradition?
Well, as you've obviously done some of your homework because you know the beginnings of our events, and yeah, the country fair actually began in 1888 as a fall fair, and it was an opportunity for local farmers, hobbyists, and so on to showcase whether it was their livestock, their produce, their quilting, their marmalade, all of those things. And
marmalade!
Then
I'm all for that. Okay, yep.
And then in the mid 40s, Michelle, two local Cloverdale gentlemen who belonged to a kinsman club, they had traveled up to Kamloops, and they came back to Cloverdale with an idea to help pick up people's spirits after the Second World War, bring the community together, have some fun. And those two gentlemen started the Cloverdale Rodeo in the mid 40s. And then in 1996, the fair and the rodeo were married, if you will. And since 1996, or the two have gone together on the May long weekend. So wow. It's an exciting time. We're looking forward to welcoming another 70,000 plus people to our fairgrounds this weekend.
70,000. That's fantastic. How much has this grown over the years?
Well, I guess one measure of that would be the number of, if we look at rodeo performances, we have 5 rodeo performances over the 4 days. And last year, all 5, I believe. Friday, we sometimes have some seats available, but certainly we've already fielded some calls this morning from disappointed folks trying to buy tickets only to find out that the rodeos are sold out. The country fair piece of it, last year, I guess if I use mini donuts, tens of thousands of mini donuts were consumed. We've got 40 or 50 food trucks with food fare from all around the world. Each year we put on our thinking caps. We look at what else can we do to give families good value for their money. And as you've alluded to, in this past year, people are looking at what can I do with my time? What can I do with that hard-earned dollars? Not as many people traveling south as perhaps in the past. So we're confident that if you want to come and kick the tires on the Cloverdale Rodeo, we have something for everybody, including you, Michelle.
Oh, thank you for that. I'll work on it. Okay, I'll work on it. And I also only want graphs with mini donuts, signifying how many visitors you have this year. Why do you think it's been so successful all these years?
Well, one thing would be that the town of Cloverdale, we're pretty proud of our roots. So when Surrey was just in its fledgling stages, the town hall was here. The police force operated out of Cloverdale. We had the co-op department store. So long before there was Guildford Mall and even Woodward's, people came to the co-op and they bought everything from their fishing tackle to their GWG jeans to their produce and so on. So that core has never really gone away. Right. I'm a retired vice principal in the district, so I've worked all over Surrey, but the town of Cloverdale, and I'm biased, is very special in terms of the history of the town, its agricultural roots.
Yeah.
West Coast Amusements. This is one of their larger events in Western Canada. When we look at things like produce as far as staying current and drawing in people, we recognize that the face of Surrey is changing. The farms are changing. We've gone from potatoes and carrots, which are still there, of course, but we've also got massive blueberry farms, and as such, we work hard to include some of those farmers, some of those other kinds of industries in Cloverdale. We've got some brand new sponsors this year. I think our sponsorship, the number of sponsors we got and the sponsorship funds that have come in has eclipsed our previous best year. So we're pretty pleased. Our board, a lot of us are new after COVID because we were 3 years dark for COVID, and we knew we potentially faced an uphill battle. And I would say we have the tried and true crowd pleasers like the Lumberjack Show,
yes,
that kind of thing. But then beyond that, we in recent years have brought back an amazing skateboarding demo. We've got breakdancing this year, especially because breakdancing, aka breaking, is an Olympic sport now.
Yeah.
We had an Olympic gold medal winner in the Lower Mainland
from right here, yeah.
I know. So, I mean, my challenge to people who have never been is come on out. Another thing we're really proud of, and it's a bit of an aside here, but we have a youth foundation formed in 2014, and we look to not only give back to the youth in the community, but to bring youth in as volunteers. I started volunteering in the Cloverdale Rodeo 57 years ago. I was in Boy Scouts, and we used to help with the seating in the grandstands. And so here I am today, 57 years later, as a volunteer. We've got upwards of 300 volunteers that help us put our event together. Those kids in their grade 12 year, after having volunteered with us, can apply for scholarships. We give money to places like Ronald McDonald House. We are far more than just a rodeo, far more than just a country fair. We're fortunate as well that the city of Surrey is an amazing partner for us.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like you've really become, you stay close to the roots of the event, but have expanded to include and be inclusive of the population and the visitors and the times. So I that's very impressive. I want to ask you, as you have been planning this over the last few weeks, especially, safety at public events is top of mind right now.
Absolutely.
Just this morning, Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim, along with the chief of the Vancouver Police, released their interim report into the tragic events of the Lapu Lapu Day Festival in Vancouver. I'm wondering what that's been like for you to sort of think about. Has that affected your thinking about security leading up to?
Most definitely. Yeah. Most definitely. We were used to, over all these years, meeting with all of the different players, whether it was bylaws, police, fire, ambulance, first aiders, that kind of thing. But as you've indicated, over the last couple of weeks, community events like ours have had to look at their sites, look at what sort of the particular areas might be for people coming and going, be very proactive about planning for those things. Our rodeo and country fair, which takes place on the fairgrounds, we're pretty fortunate here. We really have one main access to our events, so we've bumped up things there as far as vehicles and barricades. Last night we had an event that's been going for 47 years. Another one you probably haven't attended, and that's our Cloverdale Rodeo bed races. And it runs off site, Michelle, and it's on a section of downtown Cloverdale Street. And we have thousands of people with many young kids, many seniors come out to watch that event. So we did have to rejig things this year and look at putting large vehicles at some of the ends of the streets, even parking lots that came out onto where the event was taking place. We have a parade coming up on Saturday. We've rejigged the parade route, which, fair enough, we were probably going to be heading that way anyways. But as a result of these ongoing meetings with our players, we're always thinking, always trying to stay ahead. We're kind of lucky in Cloverdale and in Surrey in general as far as emergency services. As you may know, there's been a handoff recently from the Surrey RCMP to the Surrey Police Services, and SPS is involved big time. They put a team in our bed races last night. They will have a lot of boots on the ground here, and as well, the RCMP has a booth on the site with SPS, so they'll be here. And then the security company that we dealt with for the last couple of years, it was a no-brainer to bring them back. Their professionalism, their ability to have that presence, because that's where it all starts, is having your eyes and ears and your wits about you, having that presence. Even myself as the vice president, having to show my identification as I come and go. And there's people that grumble and say, I've been coming here for years. Well, guess what? We want to know who's on site. We want to be able to assure families and fairgoers and rodeo goers that you can come here, you're going to be able to relax and truly enjoy yourself over the May long weekend.
Here's to a safe and relaxing and truly
Absolutely.
Enjoyable event, Rick. Thank you so much. So great to speak with you.
Yeah, Michelle, I want to talk about one other thing, and I'm particularly proud of it. 3 years ago, I said, we used to have the First Nations on site. And again, with COVID, we were relaunching some of these things. People who are coming here need to go to the adjacent park, the Bill Reid Millennium Park, which is where Surrey's huge Canada Day takes place. We've got an incredible Indigenous village. They can come and check out the teepee. They can sample some bannock. They can watch some amazing dancers and performers. Super, super proud. We've got some elders from the Kwantlen First Nations. We've got Chief Harley Chappell from the Semiahmoo First Nations. We've put together a recorded video of welcome from those two gentlemen that will be shown in front of every rodeo performance. Tonight at 7:20, there will be a live welcome from Chief Marilyn Gabriel of the Kwantlen First Nations, as well as Chief Harley Chappell from White Rock. So, for people who've been here before, come on back, because you know what we're about. For newbies, I think you're going to like us.
I think you've got a newbie on her way to. Rick, thank you so much. Great to chat with you.
Well, thank you, Michelle.
Best of
Thanks
luck.
for the chat. All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Rick Hugh, the Vice President of the Cloverdale Rodeo and Exhibition Association. 12:20 now, and we are asking you to share your long weekend plans. Are you focused on staying local? Are you visiting somewhere new in BC, or perhaps going back to a favorite destination? Let us know what your plans are this weekend. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Okay. And you can also email bctoday@cbc.ca. And if you would like to email us too, again, it's bctoday@cbc.ca. And also, I'm just a heads up here, as I can see that we are getting Brian Minter emails now as well. Brian will join us in about 10 minutes from now. So if you want to send your email now with your question for Brian, and of course, you can call in after the 12:30 news update. All your gardening questions will be answered just after the 12:30 news update. Well, I was talking about, where are you going? Somewhere new or a favorite destination, perhaps? Well, one favorite destination for many British Columbians, of course, is Whistler. Jack Crompton is the mayor and joins me now. Hello, Mayor Crompton. Thanks for being with us.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for having me on.
Is there any way to measure if you're seeing more local visitors in Whistler than previous years?
Well, we do measure that, and yes, I think since changes internationally, we're seeing a lot more people who are exploring BC. And for a lot of people, Whistler isn't somewhere that they've been. And I think when people show up, they realize that there is something for everyone. And so it's neat to introduce British Columbians to Whistler. We've got people that have been coming here for a very long time, but there's also a lot of us just haven't been. So
yeah,
it's a lot of fun to have a new group of people in town.
How busy do you expect it to be this long weekend, and what are the events being planned there?
Well, I'm busy is interesting, especially this weekend, because there's so many different things happening. So whether you're skiing or golfing or riding the mountain bike park, which has just opened, or going to the Odane Art Museum or the Squamish-Lillock Cultural Center, I think we're going to be well spread out this weekend, just because there's so much happening.
Yeah.
But in the village, the Whistler Children's Festival is going on, 40 years strong. It's a pretty amazing place. I think a lot of Vancouverites have raised their kids as part of the Whistler Children's Festival.
Right.
The farmers market will be in full operation, and it is the last weekend of skiing. So Gaper Day is on Monday, and so those of us who are trying to tick off your 50th day or your 70th day will all be spending days on the mountain as well. So everything is on.
Yeah, no kidding. And I mean, isn't it amazing to be in a place where you can say, I'm going skiing and golfing?
It's a bit of a badge to wear on your shoulder. If you've skied, biked, swimmed, and golfed in the same day, you've done something very Whistler.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. That encapsulates a visit to Whistler for sure. How are you planning for the summer ahead? This is, the sort of unofficial start to the summer season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exciting. I mean, I was walking down at the base of the ski hill yesterday, and all of the snow has been cleared at the bottom of Whistler Mountain, and the bike park is being built, big excavators in there getting ready to welcome people to the best place to mountain bike, downhill mountain bike in the whole world. The golf course has been open for 2 or 3 weeks, most of them now. And then, once June comes, festivals just start on top of each other. We're going to be having music, like the main stage is open on Thursdays and Saturdays, and then we're showing films on Wednesdays and Fridays. And so, if you show up, you won't need to wonder whether something's happening. There's always something happening. And obviously dining. This is a great place to spend some time in Whistler because we have our spring menus at all the restaurants throughout the stroll. Some new restaurants have showed up. Lorette is a great new restaurant on Main Street, brought to you by the people who run Quattro and Carumba, and it's definitely worth a try. Balam is a new South American restaurant that's on the stroll. So I think acquainting yourself with some of what is new in Whistler is pretty exciting, and then accessing all of the things that you've become familiar with is also a great way to do it.
I like how you got those plugs in.
Unpaid.
I know. Wow, just snuck it right in there. It's interesting. Like you may not think of it looking outside at the rain, but there is a campfire ban in effect. So then tell us, what do people need to know about the risks right now then?
We actually don't have a campfire ban.
Oh, my apologies.
Right. No, that's fine. The fire rating has been up and it's come down. That said, everyone does need to get a permit in order to have a campfire in town. But we don't have a fire ban here in Whistler, and the fire rating danger. We're very proactive, ensuring that people are aware of it, and we're concerned about it. It consumes a tremendous amount of our time and attention at council. We're just last Tuesday, we had an all hands presentation to council with our fire chief, with our people that are doing the mitigation around the edges of the community, with the Fire Smart team who are helping members of the community make sure that their properties are safe. Climate change is making fire something that we have to spend a tremendous amount of time, attention, and money preparing for. And it's something that takes a lot of our attention. And so we hope that when we get that message out about the danger rating going up, that people share it with family and with friends, and that wherever you are in the province, that you talk about what you would do in case of fire. We're really coaching people to have grab and go bags at their homes, talk about fire around the dinner table, and then what you would do in the case of evacuation. And so we hope to raise the profile for Whistlerites for sure, but for people across this country.
I know that that's been something you've been proactive about. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend. Thanks for joining us.
Michelle, thanks for having me on. Have a great day.
You too. Whistler Mayor Jack Crompton, and Cody's on the line from Trail. Hi, Cody. How are you spending the long weekend?
I'm going to be spending my long weekend locally, Michelle.
Uh-huh. Any local events you're checking out?
We have a farmer's market coming up this weekend on the Esplanade, run by the Trail Incredibles Farmers Society. So we have vendors and everything.
Oh, fantastic. You have a great time.
Mayor Crompton, I understand that he put a plug in for Whistler.
Uh-huh.
I want to put a plug in for anybody that wants to come golf and ski in the West Kootenays. Please come to Trail because we have the best golfing and skiing and the best weather, and we also have an incredible aquatic center that you can come to.
That's a great plug.
And all kinds of stuff.
Great plug for the West Kootenay. Cody, thank you very much. That's Cody in Trail. Taking your emails to bctoday@cbc.ca. Now, if you're traveling between Vancouver Island and the mainland for the long weekend, and yes, bracing for that ferry traffic, earlier this week on the show, we did talk about the planned improvements announced by BC Ferries in preparation for the summer travel season. They plan to add an extra 1,000 sailings on those high-demand routes. Well, CBC's Sophie Woodruff went over to Horseshoe Bay to ask passengers what they think of how BC Ferries has prepared.
Well, so far they haven't canceled any sailings due to crew. Last long weekend, family came to visit and one of the ferries broke down while they were on it. But as far as I can tell, they're up to date on their maintenance and doing their part. So that's good for us, right? As good as it gets.
I think there's a problem because of old vessels. You know, the staff are great. The staff have been really good. They've hired an extra whole bunch for the summer, I know that. But we're going to get a whole bunch of tourists coming in from everywhere. And it's going to be difficult. So I don't know what to say. We need boats.
So we try to be prepared, but I know that for the residents that live there full time and come back and forth, that have doctor's appointments and things like that, having to have a reservation and then not being able to get one can be really stressful.
So if we have two boats and if we're going to get a second boat for the summer, life will be a lot more pleasant. But without it, it's going to be continuously like this. A lot of unhappy people.
Some voices at Horseshoe Bay on ferry services. Well, we've been asking you about what you're up to this weekend. Terry writes from Enderby. Don't forget about the Falkland Stampede, also happening this weekend and more than a century young. Thank you very much for that. And Sean writes as well, Kilney Beach in the Okanagan, spending the weekend there, cracking beers with friends and family. Oh, have a great time, Sean. This is BC Today here on CBC. I'm Michelle Elliott. Thanks so much for joining us as we head into the May long weekend. And just in time for that and the rain, Brian Minter will be here to take your calls. He has some tips as well on the timing for your garden in light of the wet weather we're seeing this weekend. So he is just around the corner. Right now it is time for a CBC News Update. And here's Rob Zimmerman.
Good afternoon. A preliminary report by the City of Vancouver and police into last month's Lapu Lapu Day festival tragedy shows all proper safety processes were followed ahead of the event. But Vancouver Mayor Ken Sims says that doesn't mean the steps taken were enough, and the city is now working to improve coordination between its departments and first responders. Sims says one of the most urgent challenges is addressing the growing threat of vehicles being caused to cause harm. There are 2 more ER closures in the interior. The emergency department at the Lillooet Hospital is closed until 8 tomorrow morning. It is the 9th time this month and 27th time this year. Staff shortages have forced that ER to temporarily shut down. Meanwhile, the ER at the hospital in Karamias is closed until 6 o'clock tonight. And police in Surrey say no one was injured in a house fire early this morning. Investigators say it began in a vacant home along 127th Street, then spread to the homes on either side. There's no word on a cause. And now the forecast on the North Coast. Periods of rain this afternoon with a high of 10, highs up to 17 and mainly cloudy in the Peace. In the central interior, including Prince George, a chance of showers with a high of 16, highs to 15 with showers this afternoon in the Kootenays. In the southern interior, including Kelowna, a chance of showers with some sunshine and a high of 18. And for Metro Vancouver, Greater Victoria and the Fraser Valley, showers this afternoon with highs to 14 degrees. That's your CBC News update from Vancouver.
Thanks, Rob. You have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Rob Zimmerman in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. And a lot more on the day's top stories on the afternoon shows in your region. In Metro Vancouver, here's what's coming up with Gloria and On the Coast.
Hello there, Michelle. It's Gloria Macarenko here, and we've already got several interesting interviews lined up for On the Coast this afternoon, including a conversation with Education Minister Lisa Bear, who will be here to talk about the fiscal situation that school districts are finding themselves in across the province right now. We'll have a chance to say hola and bienvenido to the Spanish ambassador to Canada, who is in Vancouver this week with some official duties and speeches, that type of thing. But he's also going to be opening the North American Congress on the Camino de Santiago. Maybe some of you have already walked the Camino. And we'll talk about the impact that tariffs are having on local small businesses. We'll meet someone behind the local clothing brand Paper Label. They're finding it difficult to plan and to order stock amidst so much uncertainty. So I hope you can join us for On the Coast between 3 and 6 this afternoon.
Gloria, thank you. That is actually on my bucket list, to do the Camino de Santiago. I don't know if you've done it yourself. Let me know how you withstood the challenges. I know that it is quite a daunting walk or pilgrimage. So let me know, bctoday@cbc.ca, if you have any tips as well. This is something I'm trying to plan for the next couple of years. So you can email us, bctoday@cbc.ca. And stay tuned for On the Coast as they talk about that this afternoon, starting at 3. $12:34 now. You're with BC Today, and it is a Brian Minter Friday. He's here now with gardening advice and, of course, to take your questions. And Brian joins us from Country Garden Limited in Chilliwack. Call us now, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. Or you can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Hello to you, Brian. Happy rainy Victoria Day weekend.
Okay, Michelle, this is the big weekend. This is the one right across our country where normally everyone would begin growing their own food, putting color around your home, doing containers, putting baskets up, making your home much more beautiful and a place to be able to enjoy and invite friends. Well, a few things have changed. We're having a climate different. And Michelle, the funniest thing that, and it's not that funny, but, April now is tomato time. We get a few warm days in April, and and a lot of folks say, oh, that's really warm. It's like 25 degrees. I'm going to go plant my tomatoes. So, and then it turns cold after that. So it's the garden wisdom that we need to dig up and revive here in terms of just sort of thinking things. Now, the one thing that seems to be a panic always that I'm going to run out of stuff. I'm not going to find my right seeds. I'm not going to get my transplants and whatever. You know what? Don't worry about it. There's lots of time. And if you don't find that particular variety, there's a lot of varieties that are so close. Like, for example, there's hundreds of varieties of tomatoes. There's hundreds of varieties of peppers out there. So, if you're missing that particular one, there's some awful good ones, which are really close. But the thing is, the wisdom going forward, and here's the big one. We've got about 4 months left from this particular time, from mid-May, to be able to enjoy the produce and the color in our gardens. So there is no panic. You have lots of time. That's number one. And number two is cooled stuff. Yeah, any of our lettuce and our pepper, actually, all our varieties of, traditional vegetables that go in early, the onions, the peas, and so many other varieties. Yeah, they're doing great in gardens. They're doing wonderful. It just, when we get into our warm, heat-loving plants, all the melons, for example, which are so wonderful to enjoy, and all the tomatoes and peppers and so on that need the heat and love the heat, maybe just hold off another week or so before we get to there. And same with color. So much color that we've got in the cut, and all our perennials are amazing right now, making a wonderful show, and all the cold hardy annuals too, which are great. Things like petunias and osteospermums and snapdragons, they're happy as a clam outside. It's just the wonderful coleus, the beautiful impatiens and New Guinea impatiens and so on. They just need the heat. So just getting our timing right is very, very important. A couple of things, though, when we're actually looking at doing some of our planting. Number one is, please make your soil is really good, open pores, well drained. And then, in other words, when we're taking these wonderful plants and put them in, make sure they get off to a really good start. So good soil is very, very important. And the second thing is, and really getting worried about this. People come in with problems, or they phone on CBC and say we're having problems. And so the one thing I say, so what are you feeding? And there's a silence out there, right? So plants do need to be fed.
A sheepish silence, yeah.
That's exactly right. Organic matter in your soil is very, very important. But there's so many different types of feeds, whether you want to be organic or try different types of formulas of fertilizer. There's lots out there. We just have to do it, Michelle, which is great. And I guess the last thing is watering. It is dry out there. And even with a bit of sprinkles we're getting, it's not heavy rain. So when we do water new trees or shrubs we've put in, that thorough, deep watering is very, very important. We have restrictions, of course, but we can water a lot of our plants right now to get them established and going. So that's the last thing. But here's the beginning of the time. Right now, we got 4 months to enjoy food and color. So let's begin. This is the start.
There we go. Brian Minter, our gardening columnist here on the show. Our numbers again, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, or just hit pound 690 on your cell phone. No silence on our phone lines right now. Russ is calling from Nanaimo. Hi, Russ. Welcome.
Hi, guys. Hi, Brian. A quick question for you about my apple tree. I got a beautiful Liberty in my backyard, and I do the dormant spray program in the fall and throughout the winter. But I'm still getting these coddling moths infecting my apples, and this time of the year, and it's bugging me. I want to try something new this year, and I'm calling about a particular product.
Say that again, Russ. Hi, Russ. Are you there? Oh dear, I don't know if you caught that product name.
I did.
Okay, yeah. Good.
Yeah, there's we're using milder products right now. There is something called Ambush, which is actually a chrysanthemum derivative. Sometimes it's called Bug X, and again, to keep our apples and pears and plums clean, you spray as soon as the blossoms show signs of pink. That's the first time you spray. Then you wait till petal fall when all the blossoms have opened and are on the ground. That's the second spraying, and about 3 to 5 weeks later. 3 sprayings will actually control control so many of the codling moth and other insects that lay their eggs near the fruit. Then when they hatch, of course, where do they go? Right into your fruit. So the pinky sage petal fall, 3 weeks later, a bug X or ambush is registered for use in the domestic market for that. The other thing I'm going to suggest, Michelle, is really important is if you can paint the trunk of your tree white. Latex paint would be good, or you can use lime mixture. But if you paint the trees of your white, you'll find that all the insects that would normally go up there won't go near it, because their natural predators will get them, and they know that. So it's a little tip that's organic and works like a charm, and they do this all over Europe as well. So just a little tip.
Yeah.
The latex paint on your trunks of your trees will help a lot.
Oh, that's a great hack. Russ, thank you very much. I'm glad we caught that last bit of your phone call before your your connection cut out there. Lauren is our next caller in the Cowichan Valley. Hi, Lauren. Welcome.
It's Lyon, Lyon, but hello, Michelle, and hello, Brian. Brian, I've got a difficult one for you, but I think you're the guy to handle it.
I bet.
The last couple summers on the island here have been fairly hot and dry, and the seeds from the Canada thistle have been blowing in. And I'm a lifelong organic gardener, so I hate to use a herbicide. I've dug them up, 12-inch root, and at the very bottom of the root, I can see it broke off. So I know they're going to come back. What's your best solution for Canada thistle?
Yeah, it's one of Canada's most invasive weeds. There's no question about that. But where you can, the most success is being found by using commercial grade landscape fabric on areas around trees or areas. And people are using it right now, Lauren, they're using it in their vegetable garden. Between the rows, they're just putting fabric down. It really, air gets through, the water gets through, the bacteria are happy, but the weeds don't come through. So heavy duty landscape fabric is probably your best way to do that. You don't want to use chemicals, I understand, but vinegar, which is acetic acid, it's widely available right now, 15%, but that will control a lot of weeds without getting chemicals. I mean, so vinegar is not a bad thing to use, honestly. But those are the two things that I would use and to be very effective.
Okay, Lion, thank you so much for the call. Let's go to an email now that was sent in the last half hour here for you, Brian. Matt is in Vancouver with a south-facing flower garden and writes, "My irises put out leaves this year, but no blooms. So any tips for this year or maybe next year?"
Yeah, it's unusual. Iris are usually very good, and there's so many different types of iris too. But it's usually the Germanic iris are the ones that they're the most spectacular blooms on them. But the one thing about iris, particularly Germanic ones, the rhizomes have to be planted so you can see the top of the rhizome or bulb. You must see. Don't plant them deep. That's the number one reason they don't bloom. So plant them shallow so you can see the top of the bulb or the rhizome, and you'll be absolutely fine. And the other thing too, a lot of us forget feeding them after they finish flowering, giving them some organic or time release fertilizer that'll keep feeding the leaves to build up the flower for next year. Any type of bulb that once it's finished flowering, it has the leaves to build up next year's flower. That's why we want to be able to feed right after that. So keeping the rhizome shallow and feeding them, those are the two things to get blooms for sure for next year.
Matt, good luck to you for next year. Thanks for the email. Jillian is calling us now from Port Alberni with a question for Brian Minter. Hi, Jillian.
Hi, and hi, Brian. I have some hollyhocks that have survived 5 years in a bad place. They're finally in a new place. They're happy. But they are developing rusty spots on the underside of the leaves. They're not insects, and the leaves are turning yellow. So I've been pruning them off. But what is it? What's going on?
Oh, okay. Basically, if an LC or if you don't have rust on them, there's something wrong. I'm half kidding here, but just simply have to get the sulfur. You can buy organic forms of sulfur or just old-fashioned garden sulfur. It is the control for rust. And to be very, very honest, what you need to do when the plants start coming up, the leaves start coming up, giving it a preventative spray of sulfur will keep it clean. And of course, the wet weather we're having right now is really bad for rust this year. It's on raspberries. So many folks are showing me it's just bad. But pick off the leaves that are really bad and start using a sulfur spray, I would say once a week. And that should get it cleaned up and be just fine for you. And don't forget that sometimes when they're finished flowering, you can cut them back and let new growth come, and they'll be fine. But unfortunately, this is a bad year, but rust on Alcea is just one of the big things we have to live with. But keeping them under the eaves too is often better. With less water on them, they'll be less likely to get the rust. But it's fixable, no problem.
Oh, there's the good news. Jillian, thank you for the call. It's 12:45. This is BC Today, and I'm joined by Brian Minter, our regular gardening columnist. And as always, he is taking your gardening questions. Our numbers again, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, or you can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Fran is joining us now from Pender Island. Welcome, Fran.
Hi. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I bought 2 brand new reservoir planters, and I filled them up with dirt that came in a bag, Pro Mix, to do vegetable planting. So I planted those little Japanese turnips and lettuce, and the seedlings were coming up fine. And then I noticed that they were drooping and dead when they're about an inch high. So I thought, okay, cutworms, right?
Yep.
But I'm going, how could they come in the mix? Do you think that's possible?
Okay, Fran, it's highly unusual, especially with a professional mix like Pro Mix. We use thousands of bales of them and have never, ever seen any cutworms in them. They're very careful in terms of that. But are you sure, Fran, it was cutworms that were causing this to happen?
Oh, yeah. I found one this morning. It was climbing up the side. So maybe they're coming up from the garden area.
Well,
it was about an inch long, and then when I, it was about an inch long, and when I poked it, it curled up.
Right. But you just want to know how to get rid of them, though.
Yeah. I'm going to say that there isn't much available anymore that normally would be working. But as with so many of the grubs in our lawns right now, the larva stage, we're finding that bacteria, and I would try BTK. I would put it in your soil. It's very safe. It's used, but we're finding it's reasonably effective against cutworms. So try some BTK, inexpensive, very effective to be able to use. We're using it on all our vegetables right now for the cabbage butterfly moth, the larva there too. And we're just getting pretty good success. So try BTK. I think that's going to be the best way to try and get some control here. I highly unusual. That's crazy that it's happening. But anyway, that's the one thing I would use.
Okay.
I've been using diatomaceous earth too, but it's raining now, so that's not going to be very effective. So I'll try the BTK. Thanks a lot.
And diatomaceous earth, one of the original people many years ago came to see me who actually started the whole diatomaceous earth. And he was a little doubtful in terms of the effectiveness because he claimed that they're not getting it from the right sources to be as effective as they can. And I don't think that's going to be effective against cutworms. I really don't. So try the BTK. We're finding pretty good success. And I really hope that's going to help for you.
Yeah, hopefully so. Fran, thank you so much. Yeah, puzzling as to where they came from, but hopefully that does work for you in terms of getting rid of them. That's Fran at Pender Island. Let's head up to Fort St. John. And Colin is on the line with a question for Brian. Hi, Colin.
Hello, how are you guys doing?
Great.
Great, thanks for calling.
Okay, I'll be quick here. Brian, I got lots of little seedling trees, like say 6 inch to 2 feet, lilac, spruce trees, kind of everything. And I want to know, I'm a farmer, so I get like nitrogen, like urea 4600, 1152, etc. How much can I give these little guys? Is there a rule of thumb? All that.
Yeah, Colin, I would be very afraid to give that high a percentage nitrogen to the young seedlings. That really worries me a lot. if you can get I would say something like, usually that could be 4500. Sulfate of ammonia 2100 would be a little bit better. You can actually put that on lettuce, for example, with no problem, as long as you water it afterwards. And of course, one thing I like about 2100, it's soluble, and you could put it on as a solution. But it really scares me, that high a percentage nitrogen, that we're going to burn the trees. So if you could, if you want to do straight nitrogen, yeah, I know, and I appreciate that, but it's worrying me. I'm scared that this is going to get some burning. So lower nitrogen, please, and or a timed release fertilizer around them. That would be better. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks.
Colin, thank you so much. Have to find another use for that then. Amber, let's come back to Vancouver, and Amber has a question for Brian. Hello, Amber.
Hi, Brian. You guys can hear me okay?
Sure can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Sorry. So my father passed away just before Christmas, and we originally are from the Kootenays, and my mother lives in Richmond, I live in Vancouver with my son, and we are heading back to the Kootenays next weekend to bury his ashes in a really lovely community cemetery there that's on the same side of the mountain that is on the farm that I grew up on. And my parents, they were part of that sort of back to the land movement in the 70s up in that West Kootenay region, and they, settled the land with my aunt and uncle and built a house, and my dad loves it up there. So it's very fitting that we're going to bury his ashes there. And the community cemetery there is very open to ideas from the loved ones of the people who are burying their people there, and in terms of what markers and how the plots are handled, and so they're open to plantings on the plots. And so my dad loved gladiolas, so we know we're going to plant some gladiolas there. Other plots have bulbs on them that do quite well, but the winters are kind of harsh, and it's in a forested setting with sort of partial sunlight, and it's not maintained throughout the year. They do have a cleanup once or twice a year there, but it wouldn't be regularly maintained or watered. And so we're looking for some ideas, maybe for some low-lying naturalized species of plants that we could plant there. It's a fairly small plot because it was cremated, and so it's a 1 meter by 1 meter. And we used to have sedums in our garden there that did quite well, and so we were thinking of maybe some sedums. But would love your thoughts on what might be good to plant there.
Yeah.
Sure. Amber, I'm very sorry about your father. And if you are putting the ashes in, just make sure that we go down fairly deep so that the roots of whatever types of plants we put in, you can sometimes burn the roots. So just be a little bit cautious with that. But I love your idea with your sedums. And today, Amber, there's so many incredible varieties. I like the varieties that actually flower in the late autumn, but there's beautiful foliage of so many varieties right now. There's variegated, there's purple foliage, there's bronze foliage. Those are great. And again, because water is going to be an issue here, you will have to try and get them established first of all. They are, until they get going, they're going to need that little extra water. But sedums are actually brilliant in terms of being able to do that. And there's such a ride with them. But don't forget, there's creeping sedums. There's one called Angelina, which I love, is a golden one. It stays green year round, so it's nice to be able to enjoy 12 months a year. But I'm looking at all the other perennials, the salvias and Nepeta and all these wonderful things of long flowering periods. They would be okay too, but the sedums are going to be the safest in terms of hardiness in winter, tolerant of the heat, sun, and summertime, and tolerant of the water. So I think that's going to be by far the best way to go.
Amber, what a lovely tribute to your father. And so all the best with that. And a great suggestion from Brian there. Good luck. Thanks so much for the call. Justin in Abbotsford now with a question about transplanting. Hi, Justin.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
I have a well-established photinia that has been on our property for, I know, at least 10 years that we've owned the property, but probably closer to 20 or 30.
Yep.
Unfortunately, it is at the base of a sloped backyard that I am now actively building a retaining wall and leveling off to a yard. I've looked online and had of course, many differing opinions on how best to do this, or even if it's achievable. But looking for advice on to giving it its best chance to transplant it. It's it's been a focal point in our backyard for the 10 years that we've owned it. We love the flowers, but it's just smack in the middle of the yard, and it will prevent me from having a level backyard, essentially, because I'll have to make a well to keep the root. So I
Justin,
know that.
may I ask you how big the trunk is? Like, how thick? Is it 2 or 3 inches across?
The trunk is, that's a good question. I'm going to say 8 inches, and I could have measured it.
Oh my goodness.
So maybe I'll call in later. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite, this is 25 feet plus tall.
Yeah. Okay. If you really want to save it, you're going to have to take a chainsaw and cut it back to about 3 or 4 feet. That's the only way. And the one thing about Photinia, it'll break new growth out of old hard wood. That's why I wanted to know how thick the stem was. But you're going to have to prune it back very, very hard, maybe up to 4 feet and so on. But at an 8-inch trunk, that's a substantial root system. Like, you're probably going to have to go about 2 to 2.5 feet.
8-inch trunk.
8-inch, that's right. You're going to have to go 2 feet to 2.5 feet on either side in diameter. So you've got maybe about a 4-foot root system on that tree. You'll have to take a bit of a chainsaw and a good sharp shovel to be able to expose the roots, and then cut the roots as well with loppers and with chainsaws. If you can get a good root ball on it, take the leaves off, make it go completely dormant, it's able to do it. You'll also have to make sure the ground is very wet before you dig anything. It can't be dry. It needs to be soaking wet. And if you do that, you will be able to save the tree. But having it any bigger... Normally we do this in from late October, November until the end of February. That's our window for digging Photinias. But if you're going to do it during the growing season, that's how really tough you have to be in terms of getting it pruned back to make it viable to be able to dig.
Yeah, sounds like.
So the timing is absolutely the question. So the best time to do all this would be October, November, do all the trimming, do the transplanting, get it done.
Exactly. And at that time, you could prune it back to about 5 or 6 feet because it'd going to be a tough one to do. But if you are doing it anytime during the growing season, you're going to have to take the leaves off to make it go dormant.
Okay. Justin, thank you very much. Big job ahead there for you, Justin. Thanks for the call. Brian, that's it. That's a lot of callers. I think people really were getting ready for this weekend.
Yes. Yeah, well, to everyone, we've got a long spring ahead, summer ahead, great time to be able to enjoy our own food, which is so very important, and getting color and beauty around our home. So everyone have a wonderful long weekend, and thank you, Michelle. It's so good to talk to you.
Very good to talk to you. Yes, just a bit of patience. That's Brian Minter joining us from Chilliwack.